Why does the pursuit of happiness often end in disappointment? Most people live chasing an ideal of perpetual joy, believing that a better job, an ideal partner, or a larger bank account will give them the satisfaction they long for. The pursuit of happiness seems to be the common thread that unites humanity. Books, self-help gurus, and social media influencers bombard us with the same promise. Follow these steps, and you will achieve happiness. However, there is a fundamental problem. This formula does not work. No matter how much success you accumulate, how much money you earn, or how many experiences you have, happiness always seems to slip away. But Nietzsche, the German philosopher, had a compelling answer. Happiness is an illusion. For him, it was not the purpose of life but a distraction, a weakness, and even a form of self-deception. With characteristic irony, he stated, "Man does not strive for happiness, only the English do," criticizing the modern obsession with making happiness a primary goal. Instead, Nietzsche proposed that what we truly crave is not happiness but struggle, challenge, and the feeling of overcoming obstacles. Surprisingly, modern psychology supports this idea. Studies show that those who actively pursue happiness often end up more depressed and anxious, while those who seek meaning through effort and personal growth experience deeper fulfillment. So, if happiness is not the ultimate goal, what should we understand? First, it is crucial to analyze why this relentless pursuit of happiness is generating more unhappiness. Everywhere, happiness is marketed as a product. Influencers promise that their morning routines will make you happy. Self-help books assure that positive thinking will attract happiness. Advertisements convince you that buying certain products will guarantee bliss. This cycle repeats endlessly. Work harder, achieve success, expect happiness, feel empty, and start over. But there is a problem. The more you chase happiness, the more miserable you become. Psychologists have discovered that focusing too much on being happy generates anxiety, stress, and depression. This phenomenon is known as the happiness paradox. The more you seek it, the more it eludes you. Nietzsche identified this trap long before modern science. For him, happiness was not something that could be achieved by pursuing it. He believed that humans are not programmed for happiness but for power, struggle, and personal growth. Reflect. Have you ever noticed that after achieving a great accomplishment, happiness quickly fades? A promotion at work, a new phone, or your dream house might excite you at first, but soon they become normal. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. No matter how much we achieve, our happiness always returns to a baseline level. If something good happens, we feel good for a while, but then we adapt. If something bad occurs, we suffer, but we also adapt. And so, we keep chasing the next thing, convinced that this time it will make us happy, even though it never does. Nietzsche argued that this constant pursuit of happiness is a distraction, a way to avoid facing life's true struggles. According to him, humans do not desire happiness but growth, challenge, and the satisfaction of conquering something difficult. Modern psychology supports this idea. Studies, such as those by psychologist Roy Baumeister, show that those who prioritize meaning over pleasure tend to focus on challenges, personal growth, and overcoming obstacles, and paradoxically, they report greater happiness than those who seek only comfort. Think about the moments when you have felt most fulfilled. Was it while resting and doing nothing? Or was it when you were striving to overcome a challenge and finally succeeded? Nietzsche argued that the true path to fulfillment is not happiness but struggle. But because the human drive is not comfort but power. This leads us to one of Nietzsche's most powerful concepts, the will to power. Contrary to what many think, Nietzsche did not believe that humans were motivated solely by survival or the pursuit of pleasure. For him, the deepest drive is power, understood not as dominance over others but as self-improvement, transcending our limitations, growing, becoming stronger and more capable, and proving to ourselves that we can conquer obstacles. Nietzsche urged us not to seek peace but to face struggle head-on and emerge stronger. This idea resonates with modern psychology, which recognizes that people feel more fulfilled when they pursue challenges rather than avoid them. Maslow's hierarchy of needs places self-actualization at the top, the desire to reach our maximum potential. This closely resembles Nietzsche's will to power. Humans do not just want to exist, We want to grow, evolve, and become something greater. Comfort and happiness may be pleasurable temporarily, but stagnation leads to misery. The most rewarding moments in life come from overcoming obstacles, not avoiding them. Think of athletes who push their bodies to the limit, not for happiness but for the feeling of power and mastery. Or artists who face years of rejection and doubt, not for fun but for the desire to create something meaningful. Entrepreneurs take risks and face failures, not out of love for stress but for the satisfaction of building something from scratch. In all these cases, happiness is secondary. What truly motivates is progress, growth, and advancement. Nietzsche believed that without struggle, people weaken and fall into misery. Observing modern society, it is easy to see his point. We live in an era of unprecedented comfort, unlimited entertainment, instant gratification, and constant distractions. Yet, depression and anxiety are at an all-time high. People feel lost, dissatisfied, and trapped in an existential crisis. But because modern life has eliminated struggle, and with it, the opportunity to experience true fulfillment. Instead of facing challenges, we numb ourselves with distractions. Many settle for comfortable mediocrity rather than striving to reach their potential. Nietzsche would argue that this pursuit of comfort is precisely what leaves us empty. The less you struggle, the less you grow. The less you grow, the weaker you feel, and the weaker you feel, the more lost you are. The solution, according to Nietzsche, is to embrace struggle rather than flee from it. Yet, in our society, this is increasingly difficult, as the system pushes us to remain weak and dependent. Nietzsche divided morality into two types: the master morality and the slave morality. The first belongs to the strong, to those who create their own values and live independently. The second is the morality of the weak, those who blindly follow values imposed by others. For Nietzsche, slave morality is based on weakness, guilt, and submission. It teaches that struggle is bad and that comfort is preferable. It fosters passivity, presenting obedience and meekness as virtues, while demonizing power, ambition, and personal growth. Nietzsche saw this morality as a defense mechanism. The weak, unable to compete with the strong, invent a system that glorifies their weakness. Throughout history, modern morality, religion, and social conditioning have been tools to keep people submissive and dependent. Today, this is reflected in how we are taught to avoid pain, to blame others for our problems, and to seek external validation rather than forge our own path. Nietzsche challenges us to break free from these chains and create our own values, but he warns that this path is not for everyone, as it requires courage, discipline, and an unwavering will to face struggle. In modern society, this phenomenon manifests everywhere. We are taught to avoid discomfort at all costs. The dominant narrative repeats that struggle is unnecessary, that life should be easy, and that suffering is unjust. But avoiding struggle does not strengthen us, it weakens us. Instead of fostering personal responsibility, we are encouraged to blame others for our problems. Many are conditioned to adopt the role of victims, convinced that their fate is beyond their control. Nietzsche saw this mentality as a trap that keeps people stuck in mediocrity, unable to recognize their true potential. Moreover, he observed how ambition, power, and success are often demonized, portrayed as selfish or morally questionable. But in reality, these forces are what drive personal growth and lead to a purposeful life. This is why Nietzsche rejected traditional morality. Not because he longed for chaos, but because he believed morality had been hijacked by weakness. His call was to stop blindly accepting social norms and, instead, create our own values. However, he warned that few would have the courage to do so, as freeing oneself from slave morality involves facing pain. And it is precisely this fear of pain that keeps most people trapped in comfort. Modern psychology supports Nietzsche's view. Most people remain weak because they are conditioned to fear struggle. They choose what is easy, even if it condemns them to long-term unhappiness. This is the trap of comfort. Add to this the fear of judgment and the need for approval, which prevent many from pursuing their true potential. Society trains us to seek external validation rather than forge our own path. But Nietzsche did not just point out the problem, he offered a solution: though it was not for everyone. He believed that only a few would have the courage to break free from this conditioning and create their own destiny. He called these individuals Übermenschen, supermen, beings who transcend weakness and embrace their inner power. For Nietzsche, the Übermensch represents the full realization of the human being, someone who creates their own meaning, accepts struggle as an essential part of life, and refuses to be controlled by social norms. They do not seek happiness but power, growth, and self-improvement. They do not follow the herd, they forge their own values and live by them. They do not complain about difficulties, they see them as challenges to be conquered. For Nietzsche, the Übermensch is the next step in human evolution, not biologically but psychologically. They are someone who breaks away from the predictable and comfortable path that most follow, freeing themselves from social illusions to create their own destiny. However, he warned that few would reach this level as most fear the struggle it requires. So, how can one begin to think like an Übermensch? Although Nietzsche did not leave a step-by-step manual, his writings suggest 5 key psychological traits that distinguish the strong from the weak. The first is radical honesty with oneself. While the weak deceive themselves, the strong face the truth, no matter how painful it is. Many people lie daily about their goals, weaknesses, and failures. They tell themselves, "I am happy with my life," when in reality, they are dissatisfied. "It's not my fault that I'm stuck," when they avoid responsibility. "I'll start tomorrow," knowing they won't. The Übermensch refuses to live in illusions. They see the world and themselves as they are, not as they wish them to be. This brutal honesty is painful, but it is the first step toward true strength. The second trait is accepting suffering as part of growth. The weak flee from discomfort, the strong embrace it as fuel for their development. Nietzsche believed that most people are soft because they avoid pain at all costs. But suffering is not the enemy, it is the path to self-improvement. Great artists endure years of rejection before creating their masterpiece. Great thinkers challenge their own beliefs, facing mental agony to generate revolutionary ideas. For the Übermensch, suffering is not something to fear but a tool to use. The third trait is creating your own values. The weak accept the values society imposes on them, the strong forge their own meaning and live by it. Most people allow external forces, such as religion, culture, or social norms, to define what is good or bad. Nietzsche considered this the ultimate weakness. In contrast, the Übermensch creates their own morality and purpose. This is the ultimate form of freedom and power, not the freedom to do as one pleases but the freedom to become who one truly is. Keep in mind that becoming an Übermensch is not easy. It requires a lifetime of struggle, self-discipline, and fearless thinking. This is why Nietzsche believed that most would prefer to remain weak. But for those willing to accept the challenge, the reward is transcending the limitations imposed by society and becoming something greater. Nietzsche does not offer us a promise but a challenge. Evolve or remain where you are. The choice is ours. The fourth trait is taking full responsibility for one's life. The weak blame others for their circumstances. The strong accept that they are the sole masters of their destiny. Modern society encourages victimhood. It tells us that our difficulties are the fault of the economy, education, our parents, or the government. But the Übermensch does not allow excuses. They recognize that while they cannot control everything that happens to them, they can control their response. Instead of complaining, they act. Instead of waiting, they take the initiative. They understand that their life is theirs and no one else's. For example, a writer who fails to get published does not waste time lamenting the publishing industry. Instead, they self-publish their book, promote their work, and build their own audience. Finally, the fifth trait is turning chaos into order and creation. Nietzsche saw the world as a chaotic place, without inherent meaning. Most people despair at this reality, but the Übermensch uses it as an opportunity. They do not let themselves be dragged down by disorder. They transform it into something valuable to forge their path. Chaos can take many forms: uncertainty, crises, failures, unexpected changes. Instead of fearing it, the Übermensch turns it into a source of creativity and growth to exploit their potential. For example, an entrepreneur facing bankruptcy does not give up. They see the crisis as an opportunity to innovate, adapt, and build an even stronger business. In short, now that we know happiness is nothing more than an illusion, what should we do? Most people spend their lives chasing happiness, believing that a better job, an ideal partner, or more money will bring them fulfillment. But Nietzsche warns us that happiness is not a goal. It is a fleeting byproduct that comes and goes. The more you chase it, the more it eludes you. His message was clear and forceful. Stop seeking happiness and start pursuing power. Not power over others, but power over yourself. The power to face discomfort instead of fleeing from it. The power to embrace struggle instead of avoiding it. The power to become your own master, freeing yourself from social expectations. Because here is the paradox. The more you seek meaning instead of happiness, the more fulfilling your life becomes. The more you embrace struggle, the more powerful you feel. The more you stop seeking comfort, the stronger you become. And in the end, what truly matters is not happiness or pleasure, but becoming something greater than you were yesterday. This was the challenge Nietzsche threw at the world.